awful at how terrible it was on paper that the CW motion for the pilot to be remade. And you know what? I have a feeling it's not going to be much better. I'm so being...
Welcome everyone to Brandon, South Dakota, to the next stop on the calendar this season. This former Solar Field turn racetrack takes us to one of the smaller bull rings on the schedule at just 1/3 of a mile. But don't let the size fool you, because this track offers six-figure payouts for its biggest events in real life. While the drivers won't be seeing six figures tonight in cash, they will be seeing $50 in prize money go out for the third crown jewel race this season, the Netcode Nationals here at Huset Speedway. My name is Finney Kona here with Connor Horn. Connor, as always, glad to have you back with me in the booth here for the third crown jewel this season. 80 laps on the board for these drivers tonight, and some money on the line as well.
Some money on the line, I believe $25 to win. It's going to be pretty sought after. Not the longest crown jewel of the season, actually the shortest one at 80 laps, but this is going to be one of the toughest ones because this speedway is an absolute bull ring. You're going to be lapping this track at around 12 to 13 seconds, and you're going to have a bunch of drivers to deal with. And lap traffic could be a factor as well, so these drivers are going to be all over each other in these heats, and obviously the feature is going to be a tussle.
It's definitely going to be, and arguably because of the track's short length in nature, it's going to be even harder for these drivers to get things done, especially to the back of the field. There's not going to be that much time for them to work with, because those 80 laps, it's such a short track, with these drivers doing lap times almost under 12 seconds in some cases. It's going to wrap up pretty quickly.
Yeah, things are going to get done really quickly. The fastest time on the board is actually in the 11-second bracket. Jake Cannon put down an 11.999, so just barely getting down there. Everyone else kind of low to mid 12-second bracket, and usually once the track will get a little bit more worn out, a little bit slower, we might see drivers drift back into the 13-second bracket. Absolute bull ring of a dirt track, measuring just under 0.4 of a mile. So all these drivers, maybe one of the smallest tracks we go to all season, if not the smallest track we go to all season. And it's going to be a big adjustment for a lot of these drivers. Went to Oswego last week, which was a little bit wider, which is pretty much, it was, dirt on a pavement racetrack. This one, it's a dirt track, and it's probably maybe 3 lanes wide, side by side by side. It's going to be tough for these drivers, but I think track position is going to be important too because of how little room you have to work with. So qualifying is going to be important.
Qualifying is definitely going to be important. One of the first drivers out there putting some times down is Carter Coop in the number 52 machine, already out there getting down on the track across the line for him. And that'll put him only up to second place. Ryan Zabot at the moment taking provisional pole, but we imagine that's not going to be for a whole lot longer as he goes around again. Bryce Senezak done with his qualifying effort. Casey Borgmeyer out on the track putting a time down.
Borgmeyer, who's a rider on this racetrack. One thing different from last week, the inside part of the racetrack, your limit was the guardrail. Tonight, it's going to be the berm on the inside. Whoa. It's going to actually go over it a little more. You don't want to do that because then you're going to hit the outside wall, just like he did there. So pushing the limits too much, he's just playing Tony Hawk at this point, just trying to see what he can get away with. You might be able to getting away with clipping it a little bit, but for the most part, you're going to just try to keep it nice and tight to it as possible until the track wears out. You'll see drivers near that higher side, like Brad Slaughter Jr. is, tipping that left front off the ground, just like we saw last week. That was a good line right there, right around the bottom. A 12.391 is his fastest time. It's now a 12.242, which puts him up to third. Zabot and Coop ahead of him is trying to get that top line to work a little bit. He's entering high and exiting low, which could play a factor later in this race.
Could definitely play a factor as he wraps up his times. He's all set and good. Gene Freiberger in the 24 out there getting a time down. And one of the big headlines for tonight, Travis Beckner unable to attend. And so that's going to open up the opportunity. The main driver dominating this season, he's out of the count for tonight at least. So this is a big chance, not only just for some points, but for some prize money as well.
Yeah, definitely a chance for some other drivers to get the money. Might see a different winner. We have a few former Clayton Johnson. He's in the session. He's registered, but not in the session, so he could be someone we could see him get his third victory. Dalton Kane, I don't believe, is in here either, so very good chance at a first-time winner tonight with the names we have in here, like Joseph Swan, for example. He goes 8th on the board out of 9. Freiberger still on top with a 12.03, but this would be the guy to look at since Travis Beckner's not going to be here. Jacob Cannon's been fast ever since he started running this series, and would think tonight's going to be no different.
Yeah, out there on the racetrack, getting ready to put a time down, flings it around, out of 3 and 4 and across the line. I'd say, just going off of what we've seen this season, I think the 93 and the 24 are going to be the drivers to look at tonight. We got Freiberger sitting on pole by almost a tenth of a second. Can Cannon answer across the start-finish line? 12.1 for him. That'll put him up to second place. He's got one more shot at trying to catch that 24.
One more lap, not as close to the bottom of the racetrack this time around. Is he going to get there with a fast lap? He improves, but only by thousandths. So Jacob Cannon will not be on the pole for the first heat of the night. Freiberger will for now keep it. Case Lakatos could not get a time down, so his time's done. Clayton Johnson not in the session, and Brent Bunkary has yet to go out himself.
Yeah, haven't seen him get out on the track. Lakatos did make an effort, but wasn't able to get a time down. I see Brent Bunkary sitting around in Zoom, so it doesn't look like he's willing to get out on the track, because I think he's going to be starting from the back of the heat. So with that, I'll effectively wrap up qualifying here. Take a look at your results. All 10 of the drivers that have put a time down. Jaden Freiberger, in the 24, getting a solid lap time in. Will start on provisional pole. Cannon in second, Zabo in third.
Yeah, those are real 3 drivers who I would expect to see up at the front. I think Borgmeyer could get up there as well. Not the best qualifying effort for him in the 101. Ryan Swan, Carter Coop, good top 5 runs. We'll see what Brad Slaughter Jr. can do. 6th position, a pretty solid qualifying effort for him. But those top 3, no surprise to see them up there.
Yeah, not too surprising to see them up there. Ryan Swan, Carter Coop, Brad Slaughter in 6. Haven't seen a lot of Brad Slaughter recently, so I'm definitely interested in seeing what he's got on the plate. Jacob Bell back in 7th, Borgmeyer back in 8th. A little bit slower than what we've seen him be this season. Swan and then Bryce Senizak rounding out. With Brent Bunkary and Casey Lakatos not electing to take times, or I should say, Bunkary not electing to take a time, Lakatos unable to get a clean lap in.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting for Lakatos. It's we're going to see that a lot, though. It's a tough track to get around here without hitting the right rear on the wall, even on your own in qualifying. And looking at his times, he just drifted up a little bit too high on both ends of the racetrack. So that's something drivers are going to struggle with. We know how fragile the right sides of these cars can be, so that's something you're going to have to be careful of. It's straight concrete on the outside of the track. You don't get safer barriers at dirt tracks, like maybe at Bristol might be the only one, but it's something you're going to have to be careful about.
Taking a look at the starting order here, it looks like we're only going to be having 2 heats here tonight. So first of those 2 heats, take a look at your starting lineup. Jaden Freiberger starting in pole position. Next to him, Ryan Zabo starting in 2nd place. Moving on back to 3rd, you find Carter Coop in the 52. Next to him will be Jacob Bell on the outside, starting in 4th. Back in 5th, it'll be Joseph Swan in the number 1, starting 5th. And then rounding out our field of 6 drivers will be Casey Lakatos in the number 13 car.
See what Lakatos can do. It's going to be maybe a little bit of a practice for some of these drivers who struggled in practice and qualifying, like possibly Lakatos. Obviously, didn't get a Q time down, and he didn't get a practice time down. So this is going to be a quick little 8-lap practice session for the 13.
You get a chance to get up to speed. This track is very difficult. I was trying to get a couple laps in to be able to set up cameras for tonight, and it definitely is tricky. It takes a lot of finesse to work around this track with how tight, how small it is. So definitely going to make, I think, shows the skill level. Some drivers really come out and really shine here. As fields in control, Jaden Freiberger off and away he'll go in the middle of turn 3, up over the berm and across the line. We're green here for heat number 1.
Freiberger had a good 1 and 2. Ryan Zabo kind of clipped that berm on the bottom a little bit, lost a lot of ground. Freiberger's gone already. Way faster lap 1, a full second faster than Zabo on lap 1. Jacob Bell trying to get that 3rd position.
Trying to fight for that spot, unable to get it at the moment. Lakatos, even though he didn't have practice, I definitely think he did some testing. He goes up, over under to the inside of the 52, moves him out of the way, up to 4th.
That won't be the last bit of contact we see tonight. That was just a little bit of a hip check with the right rear to the left front. Carter Coop's not done. Good crossover, strong run into turn number 1. Licata's going to drift it all the way up to the top of the racetrack. And we're seeing speeds varying from 93 miles an hour. They're going to get all the way down to about 70 miles an hour. Even at this small of a racetrack, is already halfway through this heat. Ryan Zabot trying to chase down Freiberger. A little faster last time by, but that first lap, that little mistake probably cost him a shot at him. As things get more spread out than I thought on this first lap. As Joseph Swan saw him park it. Don't think he had too big of a crash, but he did bring it to pit lane.
Yeah, I think he might have had an issue and will be off the track. So 5 drivers remaining on the track. Casey Licata, who jumped out of a cannon at the initial start, starting to fall back a little bit. And now we're seeing Carter Koop try to chase down the 77 of Jacob Bell here as the leaders come to the white flag.
Yeah, that's how quick things are going to go, even though this is still going to be an 80-lap feature. It's going to go by in a hurry if we get some green flag running. Freiberger, a good start to his night for sure, looking for win number 1.
And across the line for the 24 will take the win in heat number 1. A solid victory for him. Zabot in second with Bell, Koop, Licata, and Swan rounding out your 6 drivers finishing.
Licata goes over the wall. Saw that in the corner of my eye as we'll get our second heat going here. We kind of saw how important the restarts are going to be because we saw the leader Freiberger get away, and one little mistake from Ryan Zabot checked everyone up. They lost over a second to Freiberger just because the 10 clipped the bottom of the racetrack and just stacked everyone up. So that's going to be pretty important to note on the initial start and ensuing possible restarts.
Yeah, something to keep in mind for these drivers here as they line up heat number 2 ready to get underway. Starting in pole, it'll be Jacob Cannon for heat number 2, starting in first in the 93. Next to him, it'll be Ryan Swan in the number 20 car. Back behind them in third, Brad Slaughter lined up in the 8. Next to them, the 101, Casey Borgmeyer starting off in fourth. Back in fifth, it'll be Bryce Senizak in the 09, and rounding out our field of sixth will be Brent Puncari in the number 35 car.
Puncari did not put a time down, see if he can move through this heat, get a better starting position. Senizak kind of in the same boat. Good opportunity for Ryan Swan, see where he stacks up with Jacob Cannon. We'll go green next time by. Obviously, restart zone always in turns 3 and 4, which obviously it's probably the smallest restart zone we'll get all season as that pace truck pulls down on the berm, on the apron, I guess, in asphalt racing terms, and that's something the driver's going to have to deal with. Make sure they don't pass that pace car before they get going.
Yeah, with that berm being there, I can almost guarantee you we're going to see someone throw a dime to the inside of turns 1 or 3 and go flying up and over that berm. Maybe even up and over another car. Well, I definitely think someone's going to try it, and someone's going to push the boundary a little bit too far. We'll see if it happens in this heat as Cannon is off and away in the 93, and we are green, and already the 8 of Brad Slaughter jumped over, upset the car. Here comes Casey Borgmeyer taking advantage around the outside for third.
That's probably the best that transition is around the entire track, but it's still, the car still doesn't like it as he really didn't get through 3 and 4 well. Almost put Borgmeyer up into the fence. Borgmeyer kind of chops the nose of the 8, gets that third position back away as Cannon's already moved up to the middle of the racetrack, exiting a little bit lower than some drivers were in the last heat. Swan clipped that outside wall as once again things get pretty spread out.
Yeah, and I think Borgmeyer knew exactly how important that spot was. So that's why he was so aggressive there, cut the nose off the 8. He was not trying to chase him back down, and he really struggled being stuck in that inside. Couldn't really get the car to rotate on the rear on the rear end, and just couldn't get any turn through the middle of the corner. So here he comes back on Borgmeyer. He's not left him just yet.
All the more reason the slide job is going to be pretty popular tonight. You're going to see a lot of drivers, if they're getting pinched down, can't make that move on the inside without contact, you'll see them just fire it into turns 1 and 3, trying to get that slide job to work. You'll see crossover after crossover as Swan desperately trying to hold on to second as Cannon gets away from the rest of the field. Casey Borgmeyer wants that runner-up spot.
And is slowly running out of time across the line now. 2 laps to go in this heat. Swan ahead of Borgmeyer, ahead of Slaughter is your closest battle on the track. You see Cannon's pretty much checked out from the rest of the leaders. Borgmeyer again a big run into turn 3, trying to push the 20 up the hill. White flag in the air for this heat.
Oh, that was a big dive by Borgmeyer. That's going to be another hip check. That's the second one of the night. It's going to get him second for the time being. Swan's going to retaliate. Just stumped the 101. Brad Slaughter's going to get second as Jacob Cannon wins the heat. And they bang doors for third. Borgmeyer gets it. Stuffs Swan into the inside wall. And unfortunately, Bryce Senizak was the innocent bystander of all that. Saw that coming into 3.
Well, that's all she wrote there. As quickly as it will finish. And with chaos in behind. So Borgmeyer third, Swan in fourth. And I'm not sure for either of them that's exactly how they wanted things to play out.
Well, they'll remember how that played out, that's for sure. I mean, there was no doubt Borgmeyer overcooked turn 1, kind of hip-checked Ryan Swan, gave him damage, and Ryan Swan went into 3, making sure Borgmeyer didn't get away with that, but unfortunately he kind of did, because Borgmeyer still got the position, but they both let Brad Slaughter get the second position, so a nice break for the driver of the 8.
Tell you what, let's take a chance to look at a replay of that. We got a warm-up period. Let's take a look and see what happened. There's a 20, that big dive to the inside of Borgmeyer, pushed him up the track. Brad Sutter said, thank you very much, took second place away, and then a drag race to the line as they're both trying to pass one another. Let's take another look at that.
Oh, have you ever?
It'll be interesting to see if this is how it plays out for the main event tonight and for the feature, especially with money on the line. But there's a 20, throwing it in, big dive. Dumps Casey Borgmeyer. There could be penalty points coming to him for the next race and across the line. Ooh, just Borgmeyer over Swan.
Poor Bryce Senesek had nowhere to go and all that. He gets a totaled race car at the end of the heat for no reason. But that we might see moves like that all night long.
And here they are back with each other in the warm-up.
They're going to settle it in warm-up because they don't want to wreck each other in the main race. But that's how you're going to see a lot of that tonight. It's going to be a tough track to pass without either sliding someone or just completely, hitting them up the track like Borgmeyer did. I mean, that might be what you have to do. You might have to get physical tonight.
Might have to get physical, might have to get the elbows out, especially with some money on the line. I think that's going to make drivers even more aware. They have to try to make a move. And again, for Cannon and for Freiberger, they're both looking for the first win this season. And I think, as you mentioned, with a couple other drivers out, let me double check this. Because Beckner, Gary, Clayton Johnson, Dalton Kane, yeah, we're set to do. Someone's going to be the next winner of this series because none of the previous winners are here tonight.
I'd say it's a pretty good bet on the 93 of Cannon, but you just never know. We thought he might be fast last week, and he was decent last week, but got caught up in some issues with the 7 of Dalton Kane. But like you said, that's 7-8 here, so if he doesn't have anyone to deal with, get too aggressive, damage his car with, he might be in a really good spot to pull away here. But just like we saw at our last crown jewel at Lucas Oil, you got to save the tires a little bit when you're going to have a feature this long. We saw that come into play. We saw how slow the pace was on the first long run of the race at Lucas Oil, and that was 100 laps. So thankfully for these drivers, it's a little bit shorter. Maybe there's not as much of an emphasis on the tire saving, but you got to think some drivers going to have that in the back of their minds. Just try to keep a little tire on it in case you have restarts to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it is really hard to get these things rotated around here. They're so big and clunky. It's a very tight turning radius compared to some of the other tracks we've seen this season. So there may be some tire saving involved for these drivers, and maybe not necessarily on the right foot, but the front tires getting the car to rotate properly. Because that, especially once this track gets worn out, because you can bet that inside's going to get absolutely torn to shreds. Later on, everyone's going to be up near the high side, so rotation is going to be, I think, a big key factor. And then, of course, the dives.
Plenty of those tonight, especially kind of in the middle of the field.
And warm-up is officially come to an end, and we'll get these guys lined up and ready to go here. It's the third crown jewel of the season, so we'll have 80 laps as opposed to the normal 50. And again, some money on the line with the 12 drivers we have set to go here. One of them is going to be the next first-time winner this season. We've so far had 4 winners: Travis Beckner, Tyler Gary, Clayton Johnson, Dalton Kane. So due for another one here tonight.
Definitely gonna get another one, because Clayton Johnson, I don't believe, will be in this race, even though he signed up for the session. So
unless he jumps in now, he has a chance of keeping that streak going for him. But as it stands, it will be set with the 12 drivers he had in our heats, and all of them getting on the track and getting ready to go to business here.
It's going to be a pretty rough start, I would think. I mean, these drivers are going to have to try their hardest not to destroy their race cars in the first dive into turn number 1. I mean, it's going to be tough not to hit someone in turn number 1 with how tight a racetrack this is. So all these drivers got to be pretty careful, and it's going to be a pretty important start for Freiberger, I think, to get in front of Jacob Cannon, clear him, set his own pace, and set the race pace for tonight. I think that's going to be a pretty interesting battle of the front row guys.
Yeah, taking a look quickly at the weather just for a second there, and weather's looking nice and cool as expected in a nice summer night. And we've got a driver dropping to the back of the order. Didn't quite catch who that was. Was that Joseph Swan? It is Joseph Swan.
Yes.
Oh, he's already at the back of the order.
Anyways.
Yes, I think he might have just had initiated a sort out, but all set and ready to go. Yeah, one more pace lap before we get green.
Like I said, important start here. Freiberger needs to get in front of Cannon. I think if Cannon gets in front, it's going to be hard to get him. And who knows what Sabo and Slaughter could do from row 2.
We'll see what they can do here. Field in control of the 24 of Jaden Freiberger here, working through, and off he will go for the start, and we are green here at Huset Speedway. And flying out of turn 4, Jaden Freiberger in the lead. As Cannon works to the bottom, trying to secure that and take that away from the 93, he will do so. Just barely clear the 93, off and away, and there he goes, finally securing that spot. And a couple changes down the order. Carter Koop, not a great start for him, already back down to 10th.
Yeah, we almost didn't get to turn 1. Ryan Swan got into the back of Carter Koop. 52 checked up a little bit. Somehow everyone saved it. Not too much damage for most drivers, but 52, the big loser and all that, comes out of it only in that 10th position.
And you can see the top 4 all flying in formation, nose to tail. Oh, as Ryan Swan has a couple internet issues there. But the top 4 all tight and close together. Was he for an exchange for position here? Carter Koop, Joseph Swan battling out for 9th.
Swan trying to hold on the outside. Koop kind of squeezed him a little bit there. That could have been a pretty bad crash. But Carter Koop not giving the one car any sort of room. That drops him back into a battle for that 10th spot with Bryce Senesac. Ryan Swan ripping the outside early. Jacob Bell trying to run the bottom, not getting that car kicked out sideways enough. Everyone's going to run by him. Here comes Lakatos. He'll look to the inside for that position. That'll be for that 7th position. A little bit almost a contact right there.
Tries to get it, couldn't get it done, couldn't execute. Meanwhile, for the lead, look at the 24 and the 93 nose to tail right here. And you see Cannon putting the pressure on that 24, hoping for a mistake.
All over him since the drop. Freiberger just not able to get away, maybe trying to set his own pace, set a slower pace, but I wouldn't want to be this close. I wouldn't want Jacob Cannon this close for potentially 70 more laps. So you'd want to get at least a little bit of a gap so he can't just surprise you with a slide job at any moment. But right now, saying that, Jacob Cannon being very, I would say, conservative right now, just not really trying to force the issue. Definitely pressuring Freiberger, but not going for anything too crazy.
And Bell continuing to struggle. Not sure he had contact with someone else. I mean, you mentioned a couple drivers having a bit of a scrabble. Oh, but as I say that, for the lead, Jacob Cannon took the lead away for a second. Another dive to the inside, trying to get it done, but there just seems to be no grip. And we saw a very quick transition to the top side already. And the slide job of the 93 out of the 24, he'll get it done.
Said he was being conservative. I guess not. That was a pretty aggressive clear high, just trying to get in front of a 24. And Freiberger, surprisingly to me, cut him a break. He went for the dive bomb right there. And we'll see what happens with it. But you'll see right here, Jacob Cannon sees an opportunity to slide up in front of Freiberger. And he really didn't have it. But Freiberger, I'm not sure if he cut him a break. He just might have gotten a little lucky there.
It's still not over yet. 24, the switchback here, heading out of turn 2. Now he's on the inside, and he's going to give the payback there with another slide job. Not as aggressive, but the 93-24 drag race to the line once more.
And each one keeps trying to cross the other over, and they keep trying to shut off that crossover, and they can't do it. Here comes another one into turn number 3. Cannon backs up the corner. He'll try to get back up to the inside of Freiberger, but couldn't quite do it. So 24 back to the front of the field.
Yeah, couldn't quite get the drive off the corner. Freiberger back in front once more. And that's allowed the 10 and the 8 to catch up just a little bit. They are both starting to separate from the rest of the field, but Brett Sauter seeing if he can try to break into the top 3. You see Cannon take a higher line, and actually Freiberger a little bit lower on the racetrack.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. Once he got back to the race lead, he started just running a little bit lower on the track, maybe protecting from a slide job, also maybe just thinking the bottom lines a touch faster, because Jacob Cannon's also gotten back down there. You're not seeing everyone really get to the way top of the racetrack. Where Jacob Bell was there, it's about as high as we've seen most people run. Carter Koop, same deal. Only one's really pushing that far up the racetrack. The corner radiuses here, they're kind of awkward. I mean, that top side's not really even. Maybe that's playing a factor in these drivers not quite able to do much on the way high side right now.
And you see a slight battle there between 77-13. Whoa, Jacob Bell almost getting up into Casey Lakatos. Battle for 9th between them as you look back with the leaders. And look at Freiberger. He's trying to check out a little bit from the 93, put a bit of separation. The biggest amount of separation we've seen since the drop of the green flag.
We said those times would get into the 13-second bracket. We did get that for a little while there,
Oh, no.
or at least last lap. Both of them had battles, as we got a 3-point battle for that 3rd position. Borgmeyer and Slaughter almost came together for the 4th position. Zabo's going to get away from that battle, so it's purely for the 4th spot. Borgmeyer's going to have it.
Casey Borgmeyer trying to make something happen here. Started back in 6th, already up to 4th. And it looks like he's got a little bit more pace than Ryan Zabo. We talked about Borgmeyer. He's not really there at the beginning. Whoa, as he gets a lot more curve than he probably would have hoped for. He's usually there at the end. With that mistake, you see how much Slaughter caught back up to him.
And it just ruins your run on the exit of the corner. It's just not something you can sustain and do. You're eventually going to get into that outside wall. If you hit it at a bad time, hit it too hard, something like that. Definitely pushing the limits, but that ain't going to work at any point in the race, as both of these drivers, him and Slaughter, have closed back in on the 10 of Ryan Zabo, as those top 2 have checked out.
And it's interesting, the top 2, speaking of which, they went from running the middle to the high side of the track. They're back down bottom feeding, on both sides, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Most of the rest of the field, though, is comfortable with running in the middle to the high part of the racetrack, which I find pretty interesting.
They have a gap, but they're not too much faster each and every lap. It's kind of a 10th there, maybe a 100th there, that type of stuff. But they're not lighting the world on fire, but, they search for grip. When they find the grip, they commit to the grip, and that's why they have pulled out to the gap they have for the time being by maybe about 1.5 seconds compared to Zabo in 3rd.
Riding aboard with Brad Slaughter here. His view from 5th place, one of the better runs Slaughter's had this season. And trying to see if he can break into the top 3, maybe take some prize money home. And that 3rd spot is also going to be contentious due to that. As you see Borgmeyer run to the inside, but that drive off the corner, Zabo is there and getting a much better run off the corner. So he's defending that 3rd spot well, but Borgmeyer's eating away.
Like everyone else who goes to the bottom, just not getting the run they need off the corner, and then they kind of lose all the ground they make up, like Borgmeyer right there. I mean, he kind of didn't have a good center of the corner there, so that didn't help either. But Freiberger, like we said, he might try to set his own pace and keep a gap, and there goes that gap. We got a car upside down. Joseph Swan has gotten upside down. I was about to note the battle for 9th is about a 4-car battle, and one of them has lost that battle clearly.
Yeah, I saw some flashing on the scoreboard. I think that might have been due to the car being upside down, but Joseph Swan here. 4-way battle for position like you mentioned, and got involved with Keith Cottison. Up and over he went.
Kind of got it. Like he kind of squeezed the 09. See all the prep carries on board. This is a pretty volatile battle for 9. He squeezed the Cottis, excuse me. I just didn't he got hooked together and no room for it.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's going to bring in the initial run we had almost to halfway, 30 laps in. And the caution flag will fly, and that'll give everyone a chance to reset here. And probably for Freiberger, maybe not the best thing he would have hoped for. I think he would have hoped this would have gone a little bit more green, just because he's setting a really good pace. Finally broke out a lead from the 93, but now caught back up to him.
Yeah, Jacob Cannon was still kind of right in his back pocket, not letting him get away, but I think he was definitely in a position where if it went green, he was going to be in a good spot to keep that lead. He had some momentum. He already fended off a challenge from the 93 with a few slide jobs, but now he's got another restart to contend with on a pretty worn racetrack, and he might not get as good of a jump as he did on the initial start.
And we'll see how this start will play out here. Pace truck is off and in. Field back in control of the 24. And there we go. Flag will wave. And off they will go. A great start for the 24. Cannon flying back in behind, immediately trying to see if he can poke a hole in this defense because he wants that lead back. And how about him behind? 3 wide for a second.
The Slaughter had a bad run off of turn number 2. Little contact between Coop and Bryce Senesac, but they keep it straight. Oh, Slaughter, big contact, hard hit to the inside concrete.
And the caution will fly once more, and I kind of jinxed him, I feel, saying Brad Slaughter had a pretty decent run this season, and unfortunately, well, this race, should say, compared to the rest of the season, unfortunately, it's going to end in the wall. We'll see what happened. Was his contact with Jacob Bell? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of came up a little too much. He got a little squirrely out of 2, really checked them up to put him side by side with Bell, and then you could see him slide and trying to chase it. And just used up too much room, and that concrete wall is not inviting.
And he's on board with Carter Coop, who's riding right in behind. You can see right there. No more room, and the 8 trying to save it, unfortunately went into the wall. And while they
Not
always
much
say that cautions breed cautions,
just have to wait and see if that's the case. If anyone takes some cars out of this, we'll see if Slaughter can get back on track. Joseph Swan's gotten back on track a lap down, so that yellow actually helped him get a little bit, you know, lose a little bit less. He actually, I think, hit the 13 under this yellow once he got back on track.
Oh,
so
did he?
that's interesting to note.
take a chance to quickly see that. If that's the case, I guess felt he was wrong. He got up out of the track and was right here. Yeah, just a little bit of a love tap. Well, actually, maybe a little bit more. Almost completely turned him.
Well, doesn't I guess it's a love tap in the sense it didn't damage the 13, but he clearly sees that incident a little differently.
I don't see anything else occurs. There's a chance if we get a couple more yellows, maybe Joseph Swan might be able to try to fight for a lap back or two. But we'll see as the pace truck's back off again. Re-rack them, restack them, and get ready to go. Freiberger off and away. Green flag in the air once more. You see big check up there in the middle of the turn. Ryan Swan struggling a little bit to get rotation in the middle and behind. Jacob Bell now in the top 5, trying to see if he can elevate his position.
Freiberger went top 3 and 4, got a pretty decent run, then went back to the bottom in turns 1 and 2. So we might see the leaders kind of venture up the racetrack at least a little bit more. But once again, in 3 and 4 this time, they all go back to the bottom of the racetrack in the top 3. Zabo running the high side, trying to make some ground up, followed by pretty much the rest of the field behind him, inching up a little bit higher on the racetrack as Freiberger again testing that way high line. Jacob Cannon getting everything he needs on the bottom of the racetrack, but Freiberger's making the top side work pretty well right now.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is I think maybe the leaders deciding that they don't want to push their tires too hard. I think that's why they're a little bit hesitant to run that high line. So, but I'm guessing Freiberger feels now is the time to go. So he's up there, and you see now Cannon's up there, Borgmeyer's up there, Zabo's up there, all trying to get a run, and now they're starting to pick up some speed.
It's been about 10 to 15 minutes in this race. I mean, we're already halfway. We got one more solid green flag run. This race is going to go by in a very quick amount of time right now, as you're seeing almost everyone fourth on back start to venture higher on the racetrack, following those leaders up the racetrack. And you think Freiberger right now is trying to put at least a little bit of a bigger gap on Jacob Cannon, and he went back to the bottom once he got about a second ahead of that 93.
They're all constantly searching for grip. They're changing lines. I guess they're just constantly trying to experiment, see where's the faster lane. You don't want to get caught out. Zabo running a little bit higher there, trying to see if he can get past Borgmeyer, who's now inherited 3rd place. And to see if he can keep that 10 car in behind Jacob Bell. It's starting to get a little dicey, I should say. Whoa, as Ryan Swan almost made contact there with Carter Coop trying to look to the inside.
Jacob Bell's trying to test the limits of that way high side. Everyone else is going to have to deal with him because he's doing just enough to stay in front of Swan and Carter Coop, keeping that battle for 6th instead of for 5th. And 77's kind of erratic on the top side right now. And as those two are going to go to battle for that 6th position, similar looking paint jobs on those 2 cars. As all Carter Coop can do is just follow the 20 on the top side. Seems like that bottom to them is kind of worn up, and all the leaders are running that high side now as well.
I think we're getting to the point where that bottom lane, it's really better, you know, if you're making a dive or I guess in the lead, because look at Freiberger, look at this lead. I think from alternating the lines, he's found a little bit of the best of both worlds. He's over a second ahead of Jacob Cannon now, who's back in 2nd place.
Full 10th faster than Cannon that time by. Cannon ran top both ends of the racetrack doing that. As Ryan Swan starting to bounce off the outside wall a little bit too much. Carter Coop going to get that spot away for 6th. Bryce Sensak going to try to steal a spot. Joseph Swan taking track position away from Pancari. That wasn't for position, as Joseph Swan's back into the outside wall again. We'll see if he can get it to the pits and bring it out of the way. As
he's trying to turn left, and he will get over the berm and into pit road, so we will remain green. And I'm sure Freiberger wants it to stay green because this is the best lead he's had all race.
Good on Swan, though. Joseph Swan to get out of the way, get the pit lane as Carter Coop, Jacob Bell bang doors a little bit for the 5th position. Big late slide job on the exit of the corner. Jacob Bell tried to return the favor, stuffs the 52 in the wall, 4 wide for the 5th position. They get away with it somehow. Jacob Bell keeps the spot, hard hit to the outside wall again. They try 3 wide this time. this is not going to end well.
And you can see how much these cars are wiggling on the eggs of the corner. They are really struggling for that traction out of the corner, and it's just not quite there. So that's why they're sliding all over the place, struggling to get these things rotated. And so Jacob Bell will take 5th place away, try to head off into the distance. Here comes Bryce Senizek, who's been awfully quiet this race. Will almost get into Ryan Swan, put him in the wall. It still works to the inside.
Best grip on the racetrack right now for these guys is that outside wall, putting the right rear on that outside wall right now. And it's working for the 77. It's kept him in 5th for the time being. Senizek and Swan have a little bit of contact there. As Ryan Swan, he's getting away with a lot of contact. He's hitting that wall extremely hard. He loses that spot to Carter Coop again. Senizek gets by both of them up to that 6th position. Nothing changing at the front. Jane Freiberger in a league of his own right now.
Well,
and Borgmeyer and Zabot are close.
He's catching lap traffic here. He's caught up to Joseph Swan and a couple cars, especially that battle we were just watching is not too far up the head. And that only took him, what, 10 laps, 15 laps since that restart? So he's immediately caught up to the rest of the field. Jacob Cannon about 2 seconds in behind. And Borgmeyer Zabot is one of the next closest battles here on the track for 3rd.
And if you're Jacob Cannon, with how quick the laps go here, you almost need that yellow. I mean, you're this far back with 20 to go at the track where you're going to have 13 seconds laps. If you can't find the pace, I mean, he's not going to get them unless lap traffic dictates this race. But it did last week when Travis Beckner had a little contact with some lap traffic, took Clayton Johnson out of the fight. The Freiberger has a much bigger gap than Travis Beckner had last week.
Well, we've already seen it's very tough to pass at this track, and I think with the lap traffic, if they really don't want to let you on through, it is going to be difficult. You would hope, I mean, again, it's not like road racing where the cars are obliged to let the leaders through. Here, they are allowed to race their own race up to the leader to make their own way past and do it safely. So we'll see what Freiberger is going to do here. He's going to have to try to work around the one of Joseph Swan. We'll see if Swan wants to cooperate or not. He's still got to fight for position. He's still got the drivers he's fighting with just up ahead, Ben Picari and Casey Lakatos.
Joseph Swan is 6 laps down, so he's not really in much of a fight at this point, but he's showing off some pace. I mean, it's not an easy pass for Freiberger right now, but saying that, Cannon has not really been able to catch up to a 24 as he's going to stay on the outside of Freiberger. They have a little bit of contact, the 24 and the 1, but now Freiberger finally clear. And now he's got some lead lap traffic to get to. Brump Carey lost 9th to Case Lakatos a lap.
And look at this battle now starting to get dicey just ahead of them. Jacob Bell, Senizek, Carter Coop is all battle for 5th, so it's not too far up the road from where Freiberger is. You're going to just see him slide out of the corner right there in the background as he works around Brent Puncari. And it's starting to also get interesting here back for position. Casey Borgmeyer, Ryan Zabot, they've been getting closer and closer to each other.
They've been right next to each other this entire run, and Zabot just can't really find a way to get around this 101, and Borgmeyer in the 101 can't really get away from Ryan Zabot. So right next to each other, side by side here into turn number 1, you can see how worn out this racetrack is.
These drivers are really struggling for it now. 15 laps to go, getting close to the end of things here. Zabot trying to get some grip on the outside. Borgmeyer hit the berm on the inside. We see how much it destroys the momentum, and here comes Zabot working that outside lane, and for Borgmeyer, not quite able to get the traction off. And it looks like Zabot, as he heads out of turn 4, will secure that spot back to 3rd for him.
We'll see if we can chase down Jacob Cannon, as his times even in battling look pretty good compared to the 93. Just not able to keep up with Freiberger's pace right now, as Freiberger's lapped to 35 Puncari. He's now right at the back of Case Lakatos. And, you know, he's not... doesn't look like he's going to really catch that battle for 6th unless they really check each other up right now.
Well, it looks like they're about to start checking each other up really hard now. They're going at it. It's a lot less give at this point, a lot more take as we head down here into the final few laps, just over 10 laps to go. And there's Jaden Freiberger here with best view of this battle right out of his windshield. But he does have a fairly decent gap, 2 seconds to work with back to Jacob Cannon.
Decent gap, but only 1 car in between him. You want to get more cars in between you in 2nd place, you know, just in case those guys in front of you start holding you up a little bit too much. As I think if he gets a 2-second gap with about 3 to 5 laps to go, he can start kind of letting these drivers run their races. As Zabot pulling away from Borgmeyer, Joseph Swan still putting up a fight himself. As looks like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It looks pretty secured what the payouts will be without another caution. As Jacob Bell, same for him. He's not going to get a payout for 5th, but he has pulled away.
I mean, still decent points haul for these drivers. A good chance to make up on some points. Double points with the Crown Jewel event. So definitely very valuable point in the season for these drivers. As you look at Freiberger up on the top side, I think he's trying to take this a little bit easy here and not make things too crazy. I think he's just hoping these guys don't wreck ahead of him.
And at this point, under 10 to go, I believe we'd have single file restarts. So I think that would help him a little bit, but you don't really want to have anyone with a shot to maybe make contact with you steal this race from you. Just want this to get to the end.
Yeah, it looks like Senizak will stay ahead of Carter Coops. This battle has mostly died down, it seems, as Carter Coops tries to get something back going, but this track, like you said, it's so worn out. Take a look. You can see that entire middle to bottom lane and even part of the top lane where the front tires are, that's starting to get worn out as well, and same thing in 3 and 4.
Lakatos and Brian Swan lap down. They'll battle for 8th right in front of 2nd place. Lakatos going to take that spot from Swan, but at a big wiggle out of turn 4. Swan nails the barrier again, but Lakatos has that spot. As next time by should be 3 to go. Cannon wants these guys out of the way just in case, but running out of time.
And he's just kind of hoping that they don't wreck him because he's in a decent spot. Might not get the win, but still some 2nd place. Not that bad of a finish here. And he'll just slot ahead of the 20 of Ryan Swan and now work the inside of Casey Lakatos. Meanwhile, Freiberger taking it nice and easy. Hasn't gone around the 52 Carter Coupe, but doesn't really have to. Still has a 2-second lead.
And coming to the white flag this time. Double points with the points leader not in attendance. Pretty big deal for him.
And Freiberger here, very dominant performance here, has led nearly every single lap of this race. Next time around, 77 laps led for Freiberger. It's been a long time coming, but finally this time this season, the 24 takes the victory here in the VDRA Late Model Series.
Brian Swan wrecked across the line. Lakatos got that 8th spot. Cannon 2nd to both 3rd. Those are the other two getting payouts. What a race from Jaden Freiberger. Perfect on that final run. Just unstoppable tonight.
And a very solid result there for Jaden Freiberger. Great chance to get that first victory here at a Crown Jewel event nonetheless. And lines it up there for the photo op. And a well-earned victory there for the 24 as we take a look at your race results here. With Freiberger taking the win 2 seconds, and honestly kind of amazed based off of what we saw in the first quarter of the race. It looked like it was going to be nose to tail, but that 93 middle of the race just couldn't quite keep up.
Just didn't seem that Jacob Cannon had the pace that Freiberger had tonight. Didn't seem like tires really fell off that much to our knowledge, and Freiberger kind of started messing with the lines, running high one lap, running bottom another lap, and then alternating, you know, each and every lap, maybe the first 15 laps of that run, and Cannon just had no answer.
Yeah, just didn't really quite have the answer for him. Looking on down the rest of it, Ryan Zabot had a Casey Borgmeyer who looked like he'd be a solid shot for 3rd place, but just pushes him out so he can take home some prize money and some valuable points. Borgmeyer back and forth. Jacob Bell up to 5th place with Senizak, Coop, Lakatos, Ryan Swan, and Brent McCarry rounding out your top 10.
Good run for Senizak, getting a few spots at the end there. Joseph Swan flipped over, but still finished this race, so props to him. And poor Brad Slaughter Jr., him and Jacob Bell having contact. Slaughter, the only driver not to finish the race on the racetrack.
Yeah, unfortunately, we saw how his race ended up coming to an end. But with that, we'll take a chance to talk to our top 3, and we'll first talk to our 3rd place finisher, Ryan Zabot. Ryan, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, Ryan, congratulations on the top 3 there. We saw you were in a very hard battle there with with Casey Borgmeyer for position. Tell us how that battle went, because you guys are going at it all race long.
Yeah, it was good. I think on that restart, he got by me on the outside right there. Then he got back down to the bottom. It was sort of bottom dominant right there, middle way through the race. And when I went up top, you know, it was either ride behind him and just don't go anywhere, or try to make something happen on the top. And the bottom started to fade away a little bit, and was fortunate enough to get by him, sort of held on. The tires were going away, and it was an interesting track. To say it's the first race I've ever raced there, and even though it was 2 grooves, it was still a tight track, even though there was two racing lines, you know.
Yeah, and that was another thing I was going to ask. You know, for you, did you find that the car was better on the top or better on the bottom, or almost a mixture of both?
Yeah, well, it's wherever the traction was, wherever it wasn't, you know, slicked off, and really the corners were so pinched, it was hard to get a run, you know, on anybody. Both drivers had to be cautious coming together right there at the wall, you know, coming out off the turn. But really at anywhere at the end. But like I said, first of the race, it was all bottom. middle way, the top come in, and out there at the end, it was wherever you wanted to run, really, because both lines were sort of worn out there.
All right, well, Ryan, a solid result for you. 3rd place finish. I want to congratulate you on that, and some prize money to your name as well.
Awesome. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Take care. All right, and with that, move on to our 2nd place finisher, Jacob Cannon. Jacob, we saw you were in a hard-fought battle there with the 24 Freiberger, pretty much all race long, but unfortunately didn't quite have it there near the end as the 24 headed out into the distance. How did the race go from your perspective?
Well, it's glad to be back up here on the podium again, man. Yeah, I was sitting there trying to see if we'd get a late race caution there. With a few laps to go, I felt like I would have had him. To be honest, I've got to do a little bit more practice. I mean, I'm getting there to save tires. It's just I've got to be more up on the wheel. I kind of lacked on that tonight. But anyway, I'm just glad to be finishing 2nd once again. Glad to be back up here on the podium, and glad to be back here in the broadcast booth.
Well, it's been definitely a pleasure to watch you out there on the racetrack. You know, especially we were watching you guys. You were trying to go high, trying to go low, trying to find out where the grip is. Zaboa mentioned as much as that. Was there any kind of method to your madness, if you will, or was it just a matter of wherever trying to find the grip is where you put the car?
It was just finding the grip wherever the car wanted to go. Every lap I was testing the lines. It was good on the bottom there for a little bit, and then I tried the top, and it seemed like there for about 20 laps there toward the end, I was starting to catch him, which he was sitting there battling with lap cars. I just wish this race would have been 100 laps, because I think I would have had something for him.
Well, definitely might have had something there for the end, but didn't definitely had it at the beginning. But again, another solid result for you there, Jacob, in the 93.
Appreciate it.
All right, and last but certainly not least, I'm sure he's been waiting to talk to us last all season long, Jaden Freiberger. Finally a victory to your name in the 24 machine. A very solid result for you. Tell us how you managed to pull it off.
Just qualified good, got up front early, and just held the gap.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what we wanted to figure out, because we saw you and Jacob were so close at the beginning. We thought you guys, and we even saw you guys trading blows constantly back and forth. How'd you manage to pull out that gap? Pretty much past the midpoint of the race, you took off like a rocket ship. Never really looked back. Was it you saving tires maybe for the end, or did you just find something to get the car hooked up?
Well, when we were racing really hard at the beginning, I wasn't pushing at all, and then once he started sliding and stuff, I figured I needed to get out ahead, otherwise we were both going to kill each other running for the lead on like lap 10 instead of actually trying to make it to the end. So I just tried to get a gap in between us, and once I had the gap, then I could start saving again.
All right, well, Jaden, getting a long time coming. Congratulations on your first one in the season. A crown jewel event nonetheless, so a huge amount of points coming your way and some cash money as well.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll be wrapping up interviews here from Huset Speedway. And got to say, this is a little bull ring of a track, put on a great show for these drivers, really getting out and getting down to business.
I think a smaller field kind of helped that too. If
we had 20-something cars, that would have been a demo derby almost out there.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's why it was a little bit shorter than most of the other features. But shorter laps, it was a pretty decent race, and we saw this track surprise. I think partially because it is such a tiny track, we saw this track get worn out really at halfway, 40 laps in. So the Netcode Nationals didn't disappoint. Drivers searching for grip almost half the race, and Freiberger seemed like he kind of bet on that final run going green, and Jake Buchanan felt like I had some tire left and I can get him on a restart, and it worked out in Freiberger's favor. He got that gap and he never looked back. First time winner in the series, and because A, double points, and B, the points leader not here, it's closed in to a 17-point gap to Travis Beckner. So all of a sudden maybe Beckner might have a little bit of a challenge for that title, but a really solid race. I liked what I saw, and be excited to watch a race here again, no doubt. I don't believe we'll go here again this season, but definitely a fun crown jewel, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely a fun event to see these guys get out and get down to business. But that's going to be wrapping up things here from the third crown jewel of the season here at Huset Speedways, the Netcode Nationals. Next week will be round 15 of the season, the Prairie Dirt Showcase at Fairbury Speedway. Tune into that again, 50 laps on the board, the normal race distance. My name is Finny Kuna here with Connor Horn, wrapping up things from Huset Speedway here tonight. Thank you for watching.